Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Life, Art, and Culture. This is a podcast for creatives, for parents, for caregivers, for teachers, for anybody who is tired. I'm your host, Audrey Europa, and I'm a mom. I'm a theater teacher. I am a filmmaker in progress. I'm a self-care lover, and I'm just out here trying to make space for creativity in the middle of lesson plans and laundry and learning how to rest. But first off, I want to thank you so much for listening. You could be listening to anything else, but right now you're here, and that means the world to me. So let me just tell you a little bit about my journey as a creative. I got into theater when I was in high school. As a freshman, we had to do like a traditional play, and I was cast as an actor. You could be in choir, you could act, and I think there was backstage. And I was just like, I want to do something fun. And fun to me was like acting, right? You just play. And so I was cast as a witch, and we did a show which was a spinoff of The Wizard of Oz. It was called The Wizard of Whatchamacallit, and I was the witch. And so I learned my lines and I brought the drama, and it was really fun. And before I knew it, we had to put on our play, our performance. And I went up there, y'all, and I killed it. Like, I killed it. I was so emotional, like good emotion. There were nerves, but then it was just this sense of feeling like I did something amazing, brave. What I didn't know at that time, but I was aware of, is that I had social anxiety. So I didn't know it was called social anxiety, but that's what I had. I was very outgoing. I'm an ambivert. Let's just say that, like, I like talking to people, but then I need time to recharge. But when I was talking to people at that time in my life, when I was in high school, middle school, I was very anxious, and I would start talking and rambling, sweating. But at the time, I didn't know it was I didn't know it was social anxiety. And so when I went on stage and I did my performance, that was the first time that, like, I got through the nerves. I didn't freeze. I didn't mess up as far as I remember. I just did it. And I realized, like, that was something that I needed to do in order to conquer that social anxiety was. In terms of being a creative, I've always been a creative, but not in that way. I would draw, I would write, I would, play with my dolls and stuff. But I didn't perform until that moment. And because of that, I decided that I was going to pursue theater in college. Interestingly enough, when I was probably like five-ish, first grade, second grade, I was like, I want to be a teacher. For selfish reasons, I just wanted to write on the chalkboard and tell people what to do and grade. I don't know what I was thinking about the grading, because as an educator now, that is my least favorite thing to do. But it's so funny. Like, I'm a believer. I believe in God and how he works. And essentially, like, I became a teacher, even though that's not where I was trying to land after college. So long story short, I did 2 years in Jersey, but then I ended up transferring out here to go to a HBCU in Texas. And that's kind of how I planned on pursuing theater. I was like, I'm going to go get my bachelor's, I'm going to get my master's. But things didn't go as planned when I went to PV with the program. While I would say, entering my junior year, like, the program ceased to exist. And I was told that I would not be getting a theater degree because theater was no longer a major. After I put in 2 years, y'all, and we can talk a little bit more about that later, but that was a very strange time for me as a creative, because I worked so hard when I moved. When I transferred to this school, y'all, I was so focused on my classes, the rehearsals, the productions, and I didn't see that coming. And so I was at that point just like, I gotta graduate. And I didn't think about grad school at the time. I didn't think about getting a job. I didn't have a plan. I was just like trying to figure out how could I graduate, because at that point, I had to start over as a freshman. Junior year, I already did 4 years, and school ain't cheap. Anyway, by the grace of God, and through the power of networking, I was able to get a job in education, like, right after I graduated. I ended up teaching high school. And that was a bittersweet experience because, like I said, I'd wanted to be a teacher when I was younger, but um, that was not my plan at the time. So I ended up teaching high school. I taught high school for a year, and then I shifted to middle school because I thought middle school would be more my jam, and it is. It's not for everyone, but I've been teaching for almost a decade now. I became a mom last year, life changing. I have a little boy. He is amazing. And that also kind of impacted my creativity. I realized that I needed to create space for creativity because when you're a parent and you're a teacher, you end up kind of putting yourself on the back burner for the youth of America. And funny thing, I was talking to one of my creative friends, and she told me something that her dad said, which was sometimes you're the main character, right? Or the lead. Sometimes you're the supporting character. And sometimes you're the extra. And, I spent my majority of my life being main character. And then here comes education, the world of education. And I became a supporting character. Then when my baby came, y'all, I was just an extra at this point. Right. And so this podcast is really a space, an artistic space. It's really like an intersection where creative work, personal growth, and real everyday lives meet. Okay. I just wanted to create a space where we could talk honestly about what it means to be an artist and a human. Okay. Excuse me. Not just the highlight reel, we show everybody the glamorous parts, but the in between moments. Because, like, let's be real, for many of us, creativity isn't just some luxurious, uninterrupted flow. Like, sometimes you have to sneak in that journal entry, or sometimes it's like writing when you're on your break, if you take breaks, or, writing when the baby sleeps, or writing that scene on your phone while you're at the stoplight in your notes app, right? And it just means like you're showing up for yourself in whatever small way you can that day and letting that be enough, giving yourself the grace. And so, yeah, like the reason why this podcast exists is because I saw this gap between needing space for, the everyday, like if you're a parent, or if you just work, and then the creativity and the self-care, right? I used to think that being an artist meant that you had to be on like 24/7. But since adulting, like I've learned through burnout, I've learned through motherhood, I've learned through grief and growth that creativity is just as much being as it is doing, right? I told you guys, like, I've been a theater educator for about a decade, and I love what I do. I didn't always love what I did. That's a whole story. But somewhere along the way, like, stopped creating for me, right? I was doing productions with the kids nonstop. I was creating these awesome, like, assignments and projects, but I'd stopped creating for me, like, and I felt blocked. I felt like I wasn't really a creative person. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I had ideas, but I didn't know how to like bring them to life. And then I found the artist way. And let's just say I refound the artist way because I've had the artist way for years, but I never got through it. And I'm at that point where right now I am working through it and it's changing my life. Like, here's the first episode of the podcast. Thank you, Artist Way. Anyway, now I'm on a mission to reconnect with my inner artist, and I want to build a life that allows space for both the joy and the discipline, the softness and the structure. And I know I'm not the only one craving that. So, what can you expect from this podcast? I will tell you, I want to talk about a lot of things, and there will be solo episodes where I'm talking about different topics like burnout, or talking about the Artist Way morning pages, talking about the soft life, talking about creative routines. And then I want to also bring in guest convos with like creatives with parents, with educators, with dreamers, with healers. This podcast is about healing and it's about expression. Some weeks it'll just be me reflecting on things like how to make art when you're exhausted, or what self-care actually looks like when you're broke or you're busy, and how to show up for your creativity with grace and honesty. Other weeks I'll bring on some of my creative friends, artists, parents, educators, healers, to just talk about the work that they're doing, what's inspiring them, and how they keep going when life gets real. I want to talk about books we're reading, shows that we're watching, and the rituals that keep us rooted, because I think those things are important. And I want to tell you, right, that this podcast is really a love letter. It's a love letter to the inner artist in all of us, the part of you that's still dreaming, the part of you that's still creating, the part of you that's still trying by any means necessary. Whether you're folding laundry, you're walking the dog, you're zoning out during your commute, wherever you are right now, like, I want you to know that you're not alone. Okay. And, the next few weeks, I want to create episodes that really speak to different creatives. This episode is just an introduction to what life, art, and culture is really about. I think sometimes, like, we live in this space where we're super focused on highlighting the amazing parts of our life. And the reality is, I'm going to just say it, everybody's life does not look like their Instagram profile. There are moments that may not be as glamorous, but they are low-key glamorous because, it makes us who we are, right? It's like that gritty part of us that we try to hide from the world because it's not glamorous. But those are the things that make us who we are. One of the things I'm learning as an artist is it's not always about the product, it's about the process. And I think that's what's missing when I look at like other podcasts, or I look at, other YouTube channels, right? Like, I want to see the process, right? Like, how did you get there? I'll tell you right now, like, I am in the space where I feel that I need to create something for my sanity, okay? Because I do believe God put me here on earth and He made me an artist. He gave me a talent, and I need to be sharing that with the world. He gave me a light, not to hide, but to shine. And so I know I'm not the only person going through that. I know I'm not the only person like trying to scrape or carve out time for their creativity, because, like, let's just be real, like, life is life. Okay? Like the kids say, life be life. And there's a lot going on in the world right now with our economy, like just in general, worldwide, global. There's a lot going on right now. And it can be hard to keep up, right? Keep up with the things that are happening at work, your family, your friends. And that's weird because we live in a time where it should be easy. When you think about like the internet and social media, like it should be easy for us to, stay in contact with family and friends. We still not. Well, I'm gonna speak for myself. I'm still struggling with that. So, trying to do all of the things. And like, if you're a parent, then you already know, right? Like, it's like an uphill battle just to fold the laundry. It's taking me 3 to 5 business days to get to that laundry. And like I said, right now I'm an extra. Like, I'm not the main character, but I am the main character at the same time. And so I really just wanted to create a space where we can talk about those things, because I do believe we're all going through that in some capacity. And I feel like if we can create community, then we'll realize we're not alone, and we'll show ourselves more grace and realize, okay, like, we can do this. I want to create just for the joy of creating, right? Not because this is something that has to look pristine and perfect to put out in the world. It's just an expression of where I am right now, what I'm going through. And that's okay. Sometimes it's not going to be 100%, because every day I don't believe we're 100%. Like, I believe some days, like, we're giving 50%, we're giving 10%, we're giving all we got. And that's okay. But anyway, this is what this space is about. We're talking about life. We're talking about real life. Okay. We're not just talking about the glamorous parts. We're talking about our art, whatever that is. If you cook, okay, if you write, okay, if you paint, if you take pictures, if you dance, I want to hear from you. I want to talk about that. What does that look like? And I also want to talk about the culture. Okay. Self-care culture. What does that look like for you? Pop culture. I want to talk about those things, get your perspective. So anyway, is what this podcast is going to be. And if this podcast makes you feel seen, if it gives you that spark, I want you to subscribe. I want you to share it with a friend. I want you to come find me on Instagram at Ajwa Europa. Okay, Ajwa Europa. If you don't know how to spell that, it's AJUAHEUROPA. It's funny, like this is a little tangent. I was watching Sesame Street with my baby and they were talking about names. Names are super important because it's how you present yourself to the world. It's how you show up. And if you know Rosita from Sesame Street, they were calling her Rosie and it was bothering her because that's not her name. But it was an honest mistake and she didn't correct them. And Elmo was telling her, like, you need to correct them because that's not your name. And she, was brave enough to like let them know, like, y'all been saying my name wrong. And I'm bringing this up because I have a lady, she seems so sweet and she's been calling me Audra. And that's why I spelled my name out for y'all because my man said maybe if you spell it, they'll catch it. Okay, so my name is Ajwa Europa. Okay, or if you fancy, Ajwa Europa. Okay, but yeah, there's so much in the name. Like, I want to talk about stuff like that. Like, how many of y'all are walking around letting people mess your name up because you don't want to be rude and correct them? These are things that matter, especially in today's day and age. But anyway, sorry, it's a little tangent. There's going to be some tangents too. Okay. I want to tell you that your life is your art. Okay. Your life is your art. And that is what life, art, and culture is all about. Now, next week's episode is going to be all about finding time for creativity in the margins. I'm going to share what works for me and what definitely didn't. Especially as a new mom, like trying to write scripts and build something beautiful with limited energy and time is not easy. I am also going to be sharing the artist's way. That's something that I would like to share with you guys. So until then, I want you to take care of yourself, drink your water, write that thing, rest, and don't feel guilty. And remember, your life is your art. We'll talk soon.